We're gonna run the Seal of Shan-To-Kor chain on normal. This chain is kind of interesting because there's three quests, level 3, 4, and 5. So we're gonna run the chain on normal this level, the chain on hard next level, and then we're gonna run the Reapers and Elites at the appropriate 4 levels above. So we'll get this. This is the Arc Giver. We'll talk to her, and then there's a semi-wilderness. I don't think you could use your horse in here. Yeah, you can't use your horse in here, but it's sort of like a semi-wilderness. You go down the stairs, make a left, and you just kind of feather fall into this alcove here to get to the quest. All right, we'll just go in on normal since it's the only difficulty we could run right now until we unlock the others. And try to get in the habit of every quest. It gets easy to kind of get a little lazy on normal, but it'll help remember for Reaper of clicking our Expeditious Retreat and our Shield clicky at the start of every quest. And also, again, something that is easy to get lazy about, uh, remembering to bring your hireling because we really don't need the hireling right now. I mean, we take like no damage on normal hardly, but I'm gonna bring them out just to get into good habits. I forgot to repair my item. I think that'll be fine. I don't know that we had any oozes in here, so we'll probably just use our sword the whole time. After this, we did hit a few oozes, but after this chain, I'll remember to repair my item. There's optionals on both of these side passages. I used to run them to get the max Slayer bonus, but now I just skip them. And Reaper's changed everything in the sense that you can get a lot more of XP when you run things on Reaper, and so you don't really need that optional XP. And furthermore, you don't get Reaper XP for the optionals, so it's so generally I only run optionals if there's something unique like good loot or um, maybe if I have a monster manual, I might want to get the monster manual credit for a unique boss one time, that type of thing. The way this puzzle is a little different than the ones we've seen so far. Um, if if you light these boxes up as spider comes, it's not too worried about it. But again, getting in the good habit of being ready for Reaper because if you spawn a spider, you might spawn a Reaper. So I usually unset these first to make sure that they don't light up, and then I solve the puzzle. And again, on normal doesn't really matter, but once you get to Reaper, you could spawn a Reaper every two actually, one when he's created, and one when he dies. So, and every Reaper is a chance of getting one shot. So I'm all for minimizing the number of Reapers. We'll get this collectible. We'll activate these monsters. I'm going to switch to my quarterstaff here because we're going to be facing a lot of undead coming up, or a lot of skeletons. Again, it doesn't really matter on normal, but just getting in good habits for elite and Reaper. All right, my expeditious retreat and shield clickies are off their timer, so I'm going to do that. Switch back to my good gloves, and these are all anger steps, and that's what I'm actually using as my boot to get the +2 to attack bonus with the set. So just switch to the different set of boots and get the use the clicky. Um, we could actually pick this as a rogue instead of using the key. We had the key, but I picked it anyways. I failed. Uh, I'll just use the key, but with the skill boost and by putting on your open lock item, probably would succeed at this level. Uh, Not absolutely critical, but if you break this door open, you'll get another fight. I try to avoid that. At least when I was a new player, that enemy was kind of tough. He casts Sleet Storm on you, and makes it hard for you to move and Ice Storm. So I just early on kind of learned to avoid him. He probably wouldn't be that hard now if I encounter him, but when I was newer, I found him to be a little bit difficult on higher difficulties, especially. All right, here's an ambush. Not a very hard one, but when we get through these doors, if you go in a group, you want to make sure that you just kind of go through here and wait for the party. Someone will probably just jump, run in and set it off, but you want to make sure you don't set it off. Once you get a certain distance, the door closes, and you have to fight these two enemies, which are not hard, but again, they could spawn two Reapers, and two when they die, and it takes a while for these doors to open. So you don't want to get in there by yourself if you can avoid it. And you don't want, you know, you, I always try to get ahead of it, and if I'm in a group, get there before they get there, uh, so that I could at least be there if somebody runs in and starts off the fight. All right, here is we have a valve underwater. We have the further left furthest most path. We have a valve we have to turn. There's some things you could do here. I just ignore it all and just click on the valve. Uh, I mean, obviously, if you're new, you might want to explore some of these optionals just to see what they are. The reason I skip them is we don't really need the XP for one. Um, they're generally you're better off spending that time running more quests than running optionals. But I certainly understand sort of the curiosity aspect that you might want to run those just for fun the first time, when you run a quest. I would do that on normal difficulty, not on Reaper difficulty. All right, I'm going to put my hireling here because you cannot totally set these traps off. I think you kind of partially, whoops, I went a little too far, partially set them off. There's another trap box here. And if there's a way to turn them all off, I've never found it. But anyways, it's enough that you could just kind of go between them and not take damage. All right, one enemy I do not like in this game are Black Widows. So if you see a spider and a Black Widow, go for the Black Widow first. The reason is that Black Widow, uh, likes to spam webs, and especially if you get a champion, that's a really tough combo. We're not gonna, you can't get a champion on normal, but um, you get through web, and then you get damage over, you get some sort of damage over time referred to as dot in this game, the damage over time. They have some of those type of effects with champions, and it can be pretty deadly. All right, this is from my basic monster manual. That deed completed, so I'll show you that monster manual. There's a prologue which everybody gets for free. There's one which we don't have because it's a premium feature. It's free to VIPs, and unlike other monster manuals, free to premium players, and we are neither. We have to be a premium player. You have to redeem a code like an expansion, or purchase points through the DDO store, or or buy something at the marketplace and redeem that code. I'm not going to do that because I want this to be a pure free-to-play account, uh, so that people that are free-to-play can sort of see what, how they can make it work for them. But certainly, certainly don't buy that monster manual if you're planning on buying it, one of the expansions from the marketplace. And that's a certainly reasonable thing to do, is to do that. Getting those perks for at least a one-time upgrade with premium is well worth it. So we're done with the quest. I don't really need to use this expeditious retreat clicky. Just loot the chest, and the way the quest ends is you get to the door. All right, nothing too interesting. We haven't really seen a lot of real interesting loot yet. We've got a few pieces, but nothing great. The best thing we've had is something we bought from the auction house. All right, I'm going to go into this next quest. The first one was level 3, the next one is level 4, and the one after that is level 5. All right, start off every quest with the shield clicky and the expeditious retreat. And don't forget to go back to these your normal gloves, which in my case are the best item I have. There's some guys over there. You could ignore them and just jump down and pull the lever. If you want to, in a group, you might want to get those guys just because they at some point they might come and charge out and get people that are sort of lagging behind the rest of the party a little bit. But when soloing, you could just skip them for sure. This can be a tough fight, especially with Reapers. One tactic is to kind of like creep up a little bit and then come back down. On normal, we don't need to do this, but again, getting into good habits for a Reaper. If you do this, it's just a little bit of easier fight. You might not get all of them, and they come down typically like sort of single file one at a time. And then now we have this cleric. These guys are generally tougher. At least I find them tougher than the melees. Um, we're desperate for loot and money, so I'm going to get this chest. I normally would just skip it, but it's just a free chest at the end here, so we're going to grab it. And not a great item, but more, more things to sell for money. And there's a lot of, I'm going to, at the end of running the level 3s and the on normal and hard, and the 2 chains, the 3 in waterworks and Shan-To-Kor on normal, uh, I'm going to I'm going to do a wrap-up session where I look at the auction house and buy some items. I'm going to start doing that, I think, every level. And instead of checking the auction house frequently while questing, I'm just going to check it at the end of the level and see what's there. Especially since I've been disappointed a few times, found an item, couldn't afford it, and came back and with the money and it was already gone. So I'm just going to once a level is probably fine. Obviously, that wasn't bad on normal. It could be a little tougher on Reaper if you get a couple Reapers in there. So one interesting thing about Reapers is if a Reaper notices you, it's going to aggro a lot of other mobs. That makes mob management a little bit tougher. This area, there's three alcoves, so my sneak still is not great, but I'm going to just try to sneak to this right alcove. The the left way is where there's the most mobs, so I'm going to try to just, again, my sneak's not good, but it was good enough to not aggro that mob, and that's what I want to do is get that mob by the chest over there last. And I don't know if my sneak skill is good enough to do this, but certainly not as I get close. But get the get now we could just go and let's see, where's my, all right, good. My expeditious retreat needs to be renewed, as does my shield. Hobgoblins don't really, I don't think, do magic missiles, but again, just get in the habit of always keeping it running. And we didn't need to do that on normal, but again, just using those. I missed one. All right. Again, getting in the habit of just doing the things the way you'll do them on Reaper. Armor piercing, 3% keen, great axe. I really wish that was a great sword. Another archer. I think those came from behind, actually. That's what happened. I would love to get a keen greatsword right now. That gives me better critical range, doubles my critical range, and so uh, the biggest numbers I'm putting out are those. You see the yellow numbers, the larger ones are criticals, and once in a while I'll see like 100. It's not the best. It's not. This is not the highest of DPS builds. It's more of a utility build, kind of a generalist build to to make this to make this first life a little bit easier. But if I can get those big numbers twice as often, that would be fantastic. All right. There's you have to climb up a bunch of ladders and kill mobs on the way. If you're ranged, it's kind of nice. I mean, we could actually just whip out our bow, even though we're not really good at ranged, and take care of a couple of these guys down here first. Just because when you're climbing up the ladder, especially on high difficulties, you're going to be taking a lot of damage otherwise. All right, so now back to my greatsword, and now I'll climb up. That should take the edge off a little bit when we're getting climbing up these ladders. We're not taking quite as much damage. So even when you're not spec for range, situationally, it's still useful. And now we're at this top level, and you can see there's mobs here, and they get alerted a little faster if you're fighting below. Oh, let's get these guys, and then there's a little alcove we'll go back to, and ooh, command. All right, that's based on a will save, and um, we're gonna spec into the Sacred Defender tree, which is going to give us a little bit better saves, a few more lay on hands. We're going to do that next level for the level 2 Reapers. And so one of the things that will do is eventually give us better saves as well from the Sacred Defender tree. There's one other really great quarterstaff that would make it worth using quarterstaffs and splashing the rogue tree. But it's in a quest, Temple of Elemental Evil, Part 2, which I think is probably one of the top 3 or 4 most difficult quests in the game. So not only are we going to uh, not run that on Reaper mode, we are going to skip it altogether and probably run it on Heroic at level 30 to learn the mechanics because it's When I talk about PETA Quest, it's the king of PETA Quests, and I mean, there are groups completing it on Reaper at level, on Elite at level, but uh, pretty, there's deaths involved, and it won't be pretty. So certainly soloing, we're not really going to try soloing that at level. The challenge in this fight for me is usually there's some tough casters, want to get them out of the way quick, but also there's some wolves that come if you don't kill these guys fast enough. And so what I usually do is if I'm not able to kill everything fast enough, is I once these gates open, the wolves are coming out. I'll usually run up that direction and sort of attack while moving, running, and then some of the guys will not follow; they'll stay here, and it just makes the aggro a little bit less. All right, nothing too exciting there. We're effectively done with the quest. We just have to run to the end to get the credit for it. The last quest in the chain is level 5, so we're going to run that now. First, we're going to get our shield clicky and our expeditious retreats clicky on. You don't need to kill these guys when soloing. I've kind of gotten the habit of doing it because sometimes what happens is I join a party and people go the wrong way. You could ignore those archers. They don't do much damage to us with our piercing damage reduction. And then you could just sort of follow this path to the right. If you're careful, you could avoid aggroing a lot of enemies. Now at this point, just look behind and anything that did follow us, let's clean it up before we go ahead. And then when you get to this area, all right, so you can see there's a marksman there and there's also a lever. You need a ranged weapon for this, so I'm going to switch to my bow. And then you hit the T button and you aim that little circle up with the marker. And then hit the left arrow, unclick T, switch weapons, and then now you could just cross as normal. So that T is that mouse look. It's the same as holding down your right mouse button if you find that easier. But I find when I'm using archery, I just do the T. Whenever you see that sort of like a target, this is going to be an ambush. When I get a certain distance, I'm going to get spiders coming at me. And I sense a trap. All right. I'm just going to switch to my disable gloves. You don't want to break a control panel. So we probably want to get in the habit now of switching to this since we're running a lot of Reapers. Another trap. Trap box. And then you might want to, don't know if I have enough arrows left, but we might want to take a few of these marksmen out. And we'll have to remember to renew on arrows. This room is a little bit easier, and even if it's a little bit slower, sometimes just thinning the herd a little bit with arrows is useful in places like this. You can't always target them, but you just get the ones you can target, and then that'll help a lot. Now that's of course easy on normal. It's going to be harder on Reaper, but I still think it's the way to go versus versus just taking a lot of damage. Okay, so there's another guy we can target. Let's just go ahead and target him. This is a very deadly trap coming up here, so we want to make sure we get this trap. A couple of deadly traps in this quest. This is one of them. One class that's really good for combining both melee and archery. Melee is better DPS. Archery is convenient at times. Ranger. So Ranger is kind of a neat class because you're proficient in both two-handed fighting and archery. All right, now there's a trap here, so we're gonna. Well, we're gonna have to probably. Whoa. Probably would have been better to do archery here. There's a trap box back here. We have evasion, so we didn't take any damage there, but that could be pretty deadly. I probably should have just used archery there instead of, but I had a feeling I'd be fine. There is a chest back here, hidden chest. All right, well I'm gonna loot that and lock that because that's a +7 to open lock. Oh wow, we are really full. Um, and we don't have the best open lock skill and a low dexterity that's the skill that goes with it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that item and use that if we get to a situation where we need to pick a lock. If I have room, I'm running into inventory problems. All right, so now I'm going to search. All right, there's one control panel here. This is one of the more, at this level, this is one of the more tricky areas to do traps, so it's good to practice this one on normal. All right, now you have evasion, so that's good. You want to kind of hug to the right past that pole next, and you'll see some traps, but you won't be able to pass this flame and then search again. All right, and it's actually past here, I think. So yeah, you want to go up here, right behind this pole. It's safe, and then hit the control panel. So basically, if you count the poles from the starting area, we can go back here. I'm going to try to remember this myself. It's one pole, two poles, three poles to the trap box, and then there remains to be traps here, and you'll see that you could see them, but you won't find any more trap boxes, just traps. So you could just once you're done with that, you can see same thing here. You won't find any more trap boxes. You'll just see the trap mechanism. And if I use even if I use my search, my human skill boost, I'm not going to find any more trap boxes here. So that's what you need to do there. It's tricky. Learn that on normal, practice it again on hard, so that when you get to Reaper, you've got that down. Um, it's been a while since I played a Trapper. I love Trappers actually. I played Trapper for a long time, but you want to get those traps down for Reaper. And it helps that you get a spot check to learn them on normal. And on elite though, it's quite possible we might not see them, although we do have a +4 spot item, so that should help. All right, I see an ooze up ahead. We'll see if our designated oozebane weapon has a little more life in it. This end fight has two earth elementals and a golem. Golems generally have damage reduction from adamantine, which we don't have. I was gonna back up, and the reason I do this is so I don't so I don't activate the two earth elementals, and I let him come back here. And you can see I'm getting yellow numbers whether I use a sword or a quarterstaff, and that's because this guy's damage reduction is adamantine, which we haven't seen yet. This is a damage reduction based not on the type of damage, and I forgot. Looks like I forgot my hireling at some point, um, but it's based on a type of metal. So uh, golems typically or constructs of all types typically have adamantine as their bypassed. Demon or devils have silver and demons have cold iron, and devils and demons have additionally good often. So sometimes it's required. Some enemies have one or the other, and some have both. So we're done with this chain on normal. We're going to rerun it again next level on hard, since we're already sort of maxed out on our XP. We can't get any more XP until we get to the next level. Oop. If you don't move and recall, you can just recall I accidentally moved, and so now I have to clear this steam tunnel's enemies. But that's okay because there's another level 3 quest in here, and while we're here, we'll just run that quest on normal and hard as well. But I'm going to stop this video and make another video for that.